Welcome back to another segment of Raul's World of Synths. I am Raul. Today we're going to be going a little bit further with the A137. If you were with us in the last segment, we kind of processed a triangle wave into the A137 and got some views of what it looks like after being processed as well as before, your basic triangle shape. This time I thought it would be useful to kind of just see how this module will affect a basic sine wave. For those of you who are not with us in the very first video in this series, the basics video, we talked about how the A137 is sort of ideal sort of processing material is usually stuff with low harmonics, so either triangle waves or sine waves. But that's not necessarily a hard and fast rule. You can pretty much process almost any waveform in here. For my demonstrations, I chose to do some of the ones that were kind of recommended in the manual because I found that they actually had some better visual results on the oscilloscope as well as sonically. So without further ado, let's just jump right in and do a little processing. So if you were with us in the last segment, you kind of saw over here in my multiples why I have it sort of set up this way. The blue cable is going over to our oscilloscope over on the left, and then our black cable is actually going out to the mixer. So that's where we'll be hearing our sound material. So to just kind of get a baseline of what we're going to be starting with and processing, I thought it would be good to kind of get a sine wave into our ears and actually see what that looks like. So patching out a sine wave, going into our multiples over here. So we should be able to hear it and see it at the same time. So if you look over at our oscilloscope right there, there is our sine wave. And you can see that it's kind of just a very nice rounded shape over there. Over here on the left of the A111 right here, this way, I actually have the A155 sequencer that's triggering some pitches coming out into this switch over here, and then via the red cable right there, going into this quantizer over here in the middle section, right there. And then that's being processed to a major scale up into our A111. And so that is what we're looking at over there in the oscilloscope, is just the straight sine wave. Okay, so now that we have that in our ears, let me unpatch that, and then we'll take a look at how this waveform looks post-processing. So taking the sine wave out and going into our wave multiplier right there. There we go. And then I'm going to take that out and then just go into the top plug of our multiples. So we should hear that almost immediately. Okay, so go ahead and take a look at the oscilloscope because we have a pretty interesting shape over there. And now I'm just going to kind of move around some of these parameters over here. I'm going to start with the multiples. I'm going to move in the counterclockwise direction, so just keep your eye on the oscilloscope. Now visually some of these changes are not going to be that great when you look at the oscilloscope, but I'll see if I can stop when I find something that's interesting. So just keep your eye on the scope for a little bit. Right now I'm about the 12 o'clock position, as you can see over here. I'm going to move in the clockwise direction now. So now keep your eye on the scope. Here we go. So I'm going to use this as our kind of starting position right there. The multiples setting is almost to the maximum right there. And again, remember that this increases or decreases the number of waveform multiplications. So I'm going to start right there, and it looks like it's about the 3 o'clock position. I'm going to go to the folding level right there, and I'm going to bring that in the clockwise direction. So I'll look at the oscilloscope over there, kind of getting sort of a sine wave, but it almost looks like a pulse sine. Doesn't quite have a hard edge like a pulse. If you look at my setting, I'm right about, to the maximum on the folding level. I'm going to go in the other direction. And right there, we're getting some pretty interesting timbres. My setting is right there about 9 o'clock. Far cry from our normal sine wave. So with that setting right there, I'm going to actually bring down my multiples parameter. just a little bit. Just so you can see what the shape looks like at our oscilloscope. Let me go ahead and bring that down an octave. Just so you can kind of hear different octaves of our VCO material. I'm going to bring it back to the other octave. Okay, let's move along to the symmetry parameter.